What the hell is going on, everybody? Ross Coulthart has just come out and unequivocally said that the TicTac is made by Lockheed Martin. And this isn't the first time that we've heard someone say that. Stephen Greer said it a few times in the past. And a few other people have actually weighed in on the same story. So we're going to be looking at a few clips today. We're going to look at the clip of Ross, who said it just today, hours ago, on his podcast, Need to Know. But we're going to take a little walk back through time and look at the people surrounding this space and what they've had to say about the TicTac and maybe get an idea of who's over the mark and who isn't.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Welcome to Polarity. My name is Josh. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I dig into the phenomenon pretty much every day, from the nuts and bolts side of UFOs all the way to consciousness and how it all seems to be connected. Today, we're going to be looking at the Ross Coulthart stuff. He's saying that the TicTac, which if you don't know what the TicTac looks like, I'll show you in a minute, but he thinks this is all human-made tech. And to be honest, it's something that I would agree with. I agree that it is human-made tech, and I'm going to show you why in this video, because when you look at the way technology has been rolled out, it's obvious that there is a massive hole and something is missing. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump over to the Polarity TV. And we'll start off with the clip of Ross Coulthart just telling us how it is.
I'm going to leave you with one thought today, Bryce. I now know categorically that the TicTac is Lockheed Martin technology.
Okay.
The TicTac is Lockheed Martin technology. Why are we being lied to? This is the issue. Why is the United States government now participating at White House executive level in collusion with the national security state to keep secret the fact that they've made these advances? I suspect it's because they've realized that they're being overtaken by their foreign adversaries, and they don't want you to know that.
Okay, the TicTac is Lockheed Martin. Well, in some respects, given how insane the TicTac behaved during the Nimitz, where it went from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second, then I would say, well, there's one for the U.S. team that obviously we have some good stuff out there, if that's the case, right?
Yes, but how much of that is being shared with the actual Defense Department that's responsible for the defense of the United States? This is the kind of questions that Congress should be asking.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying Lockheed Martin might, or anybody, but Lockheed Martin in this particular case, has a TicTac that they are testing and have been testing and have access to, but they might not have shared it with the Defense Department of the United States, which probably paid for it in their trillion-dollar budgets. That's kind of mind-blowing in itself.
Those are the questions I think Congress should be asking. I mean, what I'm saying basically is...
Why are you saying this, by the way? Where is this from? How do we know this? What's going on?
I'm sorry, Bryce, I can't go there. But
people aren't going to like that. People aren't going to like that he's saying that he can't go there. And I understand. It is frustrating for sure. But if anyone who's maybe new to this area of UFOs and whatnot, this is the TicTac, okay? And this is a craft that was allegedly seen by a fighter pilot in 2004 off the western coast of the United States of America. It went from sea level to 80,000 feet in like a split second, was behaving in all of these crazy ways that are just completely unexplainable. And that pilot testified in front of Congress. And I think, you know, these people who are telling us this stuff, they genuinely believe it. They genuinely believe what they are seeing is anomalous. And I think we've learned through whistleblowers like Michael Herrera, Jake Barber, they say that I think David Grush actually said this, that the United States Defense Department, it's like a body with all these different joints, but they don't speak to each other. The shoulder doesn't know what the hand is doing. And I think it's as simple as that. If you extrapolate that right out, I think it's as simple as that there are these programs running that most people don't know about. Only people at the top levels that are read in are going to know about this stuff, because Otherwise, you just don't have a need to know. This isn't necessarily new news, right? Stephen Greer said this a long time ago. And if you've been watching this channel, you would have seen it. But we'll check out the clip again. So let's take a look at Stephen Greer telling us this a long time ago.
When they showed the TicTac, and I've spoken to David Fravor, who is the F-18 Hornet pilot for the Navy, chasing that object there off the coast of San Diego. You know, everyone's been told, gee, is it from China? Is it this? Is it that? That was one of ours. And what's interesting, we have the information from the gentleman who was in 1991 at in a classified operation during the first Gulf War, and being offloaded at the Azores Islands from a C-130 transport was the TicTac. And that was whatever, you know, we're talking, what, 30 years, 20 years, 23 years before, you know, the F-18 Hornet that David Fravor flew chased it.
So it's interesting, right? You've got people like Ross Coulthart, Stephen Greer, both saying the same thing, but it's weird that like those two, they never, you know, they never collaborate. You've got all these different talking heads, and we're going to look at one more in a moment, that are all kind of pushing for the same thing, but they all seem to be kind of like distinctly in their own lane and like unwilling to like collaborate and talk with each other. I don't know why that is. Why aren't these people who are seemingly pushing for the same goal collaborating, sharing information, sharing sources? It feels like that kind of stuff just isn't happening. But now we've got Greer, probably the most controversial, and Ross Coulthart, probably not far behind him, saying that the TicTac was made by Lockheed Martin. But let's take a look at someone else, Jeremy Corbell, who I've been very critical of. Not personally, it's not personal. I just think the things that he puts out are perhaps... Let's just watch the clip, okay? He is the purveyor of TicTacs, okay? Basically, all the TicTac footage that we've seen has come through Jeremy Corbell of various sorts. I did a video of the most recent one not too long ago. But let's take a look at this news report for a moment. I think if we skip to somewhere around here, we can listen to Jeremy speak about it. He's speaking about the TicTac. This is about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than a month ago. Let's check this out.
Yeah, man, this is an interesting case. There is power in military footage. It's few and far between that we get great sensor data on something that is truly anomalous. And that's what we're seeing here, backed up, of course, by the eyewitness testimony. You know, this ship is one of the most technologically equipped ships, but additionally, this is a senior ranking Navy official who I believe will end up coming forward. They saw these craft coming out of the water, at least one of them coming out of the water. That's transmedium. This is in the Combat Information Center. Also, they saw 4 of them in total. They saw them on radar, then they picked them up in thermal. That's why it looks black and white. But if you look at a plane through that system, you see wings, a tail, exhaust, rotors, all sorts of heat signatures. You're not seeing that here. So again, it was tracked on radar, tracked on thermal. There was a kind of a synchronized, coordinated, instantaneous departure described to me and George Knapp by the firsthand witnesses. This is really reminiscent of the 2004 TicTac UFO, where Commander David Fravor, who testified in front of Congress, chased a UFO for the United States military. Cat's out of the bag. Sailors are seeing stuff, and now we have more evidence.
How big, and do we have stuff like that?
Yeah, no, everybody says we don't have stuff like that. Don't take my word for it. Commander David Fravor testified in front of Congress. We didn't have technology like this in 2004. We do not have technology like that now.
This is where I personally think Jeremy Corbell slips up. By saying we don't have that, like, I think it's short-sighted. I think it's very short-sighted. And that the people... I think the compartmentalization could be so deep. Remember, Richard Dolan talks about a breakaway civilization, groups that are operating beyond the oversight of government, right? If they're operating beyond the oversight of government, that means within the government, which includes like the general military, they aren't read in or included in what they're doing. Therefore, if the military see what they are doing, they are not going to know what it is and think that it is something anomalous, when in reality, the trillions of dollars that can't be accounted for by the Pentagon must be going somewhere. I mean, I'm sure Boeing and Northrop have great Christmas parties, but there's got to be a little bit of change left over to be doing something like this. And we're going to get to that, a little bit more of that in a moment. But another clip I want to show you is Jeremy again, because this is actually earlier in the year and he's talking about the same thing. Take a look at what he had to say here.
So I was talking with Commander Fravor the other day, and he shared some information that came to him that was just, you know, email style. But George, it was passage material. And I don't know if people on our podcast know what that means, but sometimes in SAPs or special access programs, they have what they call passage material. It's material that is leaked to people. But the thing is that this material is being passed around to people like even Commander Fravor, where they're trying to kind of convince him that Lockheed Martin, as an example, had some sort of similar technology to what he saw. First of all, he laughed. He's like, if people knew my job right now, they would know that I know that is not true. So it was just, he said it to me as like an alert. Have you seen this before? And I said, I have. Do you understand what's happening, Commander? And he goes, I do. So basically, it's a really interesting story, and it has a lot of real information in it. But there is a core fake information in there. They call it passage material. It was eventually, I can backtrace it.
So this is earlier in the year, right? Corbell is told by Fravor that the CIA told him that it was Lockheed Martin, that it was ours, right? And Corbell is interpreting that as like, you know, do you see what's going on? This is a disinformation program that's happening. And, you know, it's a weird one, right? I like to look at the people's voices who aren't on the mainstream circuit, because I wonder, why do certain people get platformed? You know, apparently we're all trying to dig into these secrets that are being hidden, that people don't want us to know. Yet there are the same sort of voices that are consistently platformed, allegedly spilling the secrets, releasing leaked videos, and it's all okay. Yet there are other voices kind of talking about the same thing, usually saying things that are more kind of intense, more down that road, but they are like marginalized, demonized, and kind of not included in the circle. Those are the people that interest me more, to be honest. Like, why aren't you included in the circle? Doesn't that make more sense to you? Like, it kind of seems logical to me, but I don't know. People seem to just like eat out of the hand of guys like this. And let me be clear, this isn't personal. I like George Knapp. He's done a lot of great work. I think Jeremy Corbell would be a really cool dude to have a beer with. But I wonder if, you know, like I do feel like I kind of have the advantage. Now, I could be naive here, but I feel like as an Australian, I'm very removed from this. I look in at all of this from the outside with zero of this chaos going on around me. Like, I'm not caught up in the storm. I'm looking into it. And I feel like when I look into it, I feel like it's a bit of a clearer picture for me. You know, my politicians who are kind of getting involved with this UAP discussion aren't also like part of the political circus that's going on around me, and it's all left versus right and we all hate each other, but my politician's interested in UAPs, but he's also left wing, so I hate him. Like, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not emotionally invested in that way. I just kind of look in and I can see some people are platformed, some people aren't, and we look at the evidence they're bringing, and it just doesn't really add up, to be honest, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. So let's hear from another interesting guy, former FBI agent John DeSouza. I believe this guy, has like something to do with the X-Files. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, like either a character in the X-Files is based on him or something like that. But anyway, here's him being interviewed by Ashton Forbes, who was just on the channel yesterday, actually. Go and check that out if you haven't seen it. This is in February this year. Take a listen to this.
United States Navy is having these exercises over off the coast of California. The biggest carrier group that exists in the United States, the Nimitz carrier group, was out there doing exercises, and they were providing a secure atmosphere for the ultimate testing of these things that were those capsules that were flying around and flying all over the place and then they said, okay, we need to change the name of these things from UFOs to UAPs. So that's what they did. And then the Nimitz carrier group they were part of this plan, and they created a secure atmosphere for these things to be experimented with in the final chapter. And then the New York Times went in there and did a whole workup about this and showing how the Nimitz carrier group was a poor, helpless victim of all of these UAPs that were flitting around all over the place. And they didn't do anything against them. They just sent out pilots to observe them. I mean, it was a giant theater play is what it was.
Yes.
It's funny he uses that terminology because I've often said I love diving into UFOs, consciousness, non-human intelligence. That stuff is like my jam, right? But what I'm not interested in is disclosure. And what I mean by that, obviously I want to know the truth. I want to know what is going on here. But the act, I often call it a circus. It seems like there is a circus act that's been playing out for a long time. And, I wonder if, like I said before, these characters that consistently get platformed, and I wonder if they even know it or not. I think, people use the term useful idiot. That's kind of what I'm saying, but I don't want to say that because I don't think these people, it's a wild west. I don't think these people are idiots. I think people can get caught up in things and it's just an accident. They don't realize they're doing their best. I don't think idiot is the right word, but I just found it interesting that John used that terminology because that's how I see a lot of this stuff as well.
So you're saying that it's a big disinformation effort to contain what's really going on and to control the narrative that's out there, and that there's other reports out there that and I want to dig into the interdimensional plasma stuff, but basically that there's a group of people that are presenting a certain narrative out there that's protecting national interests. And I don't even disagree with the narrative that you just presented, that the Nimitz incident, the TicTac was human technology. They were testing it.
Yes.
That's a narrative that's out there that the UFO community doesn't really want to pick up on.
Oh, no.
But it's a powerful one because Jeremy Corbell even admitted that Commander Fravor was told by the CIA that the TicTac was Lockheed Martin technology, which, of course, there you go. That's your answer. Right?
And again, that's so interesting. But when it comes from the CIA, obviously everyone's going to be sussing it. But it's weird, right? Because John Ramirez, ex-CIA, goes on all these podcasts and, a lot of people just eat it up. And again, I've always liked listening to John Ramirez, but I feel like when they're coming from these agencies that are responsible for the cover-up in the first place, you owe it to yourself to reserve full belief on what they're saying. Because it's like if you're with a partner and they cheat on you and lie to you and you find out, and then you just blindly accept them and not expect it to happen again. You're doing yourself a disservice by not considering these things, right? Because it's happened before. Don't have a short memory. Okay, so we got one more clip here, and this is where after this clip, I'm going to kind of give you my little mini presentation on why it's kind of obvious that the TicTac is ours and that there is a giant hole in the technology and aircraft production in the last century. Check this out. This is on Patrick Bet-David's podcast with Stephen Greer. This is maybe January this year.
So imagine, now let's extrapolate that technology curve into the future, a few 100,000 or 1 million years. What do you think you're going to have? You're not going to have what everyone's expecting. And this is the blind spot of scientists, frankly. They're always looking at right now or in the rearview mirror. And when you're encountering a civilization's non-human intelligence is this advanced, you've got to put everything you know on a shelf because we don't know anything. I mean, we're half a step out of the jungle scientifically. But these covert engineering programs that started studying this back in the 40s and 50s, they have all this. I mean, they have figured all that part of it out. And however much you think is sitting out there in the desert, it's 100 times more. You know, Ben Rich, you remember Ben Rich? He was the director, the president of the Lockheed Skunk Works. So the week he died, he had a conversation with a colleague of mine, James Goodall. And Jim Goodall is a very renowned aerospace historian and a mainstream author. And Ben Rich and he knew each other. So he called him up. He was very close to death, had cancer. And Ben Rich says to, you know, he asks, well, you know, what do you really have out there in the desert? And Ben Rich says, anything you can imagine, anything you've seen on Star Trek or Star Wars, we have it. We've already done it. It's out there in the desert. He says, but not Area 51. And he was talking about in the underground facilities connected to this. So what that opening is connects to a place called the Ant Hill, which is to the east, out in the desert further.
I want you to just to remember that little bit there. Talking about, obviously, an underground facility that is called the Ant Hill. Just remember that. We've got a video coming up soon, Ant Hill. Just keep that in mind. But what's interesting about that is, right, obviously he's referring to a deep underground facility where these advanced craft are coming from. Recently, we actually, well, let's pull these up. Let's pull this up, my little presentation for you guys. Recently, we looked at the Phil Schneider stuff. And in that, Phil Schneider said in his 1995 testimony that these black skin aircraft that are being developed in secret Skunk Works projects, this black skin is basically using some kind of reverse engineered technology to some degree. Okay, maybe not the entire thing, but there are elements to it that we learnt and developed based on off-world technology. And Phil's not the only one to have said that. What's interesting is that whatever this black skin technology is, it's still classified to this day. Now you can see there, look at the timeline on these craft, right? The SR-71, and I mean, look how crazy that plane looks, was being built in the 50s. And the F-117 Nighthawk and the B-2 Spirit bomber were being built in the 70s. We are in 2025. Now, admittedly, we have just had the B-21, the new version of the B-2 bomber, come out. And, you know, it actually looks basically like more like a UFO than this one does. Other than that, we've had nothing. These aircraft are still considered to be like the pinnacle of advanced aerospace engineering and design. And at the same time, there are trillions of dollars that the Pentagon can't account for. You know, if anyone like starts to ask questions about like, why can't we get photographs of UFOs? Like, what's going on? Like, why isn't there any proof? The proof is the SR-71 was being built in the 1950s. Okay, that's it. Anytime anyone starts to say anything to me and tries to question it, I'm just going to go, yeah, the SR-71 was built in the 1950s. Oh yeah, but like there's no photos, there's no proof. SR-71 was built in the 1950s. That's 3/4 of a century ago. And not only that, in that time, the technological curve has blown up out of control. Like this is well before like AI was in the mainstream. What do they like? Think about it. Think about the exponential spike we have had in technology that seems to double every 2 years according to Moore's law. It's unfathomable. It would appear like magic. Maybe something that could go from 0 or sea level to 80,000 feet in a split second. Maybe something that could go transmedium. Don't forget, China already have transmedium drones. Like the whole transmedium thing isn't that crazy. China are doing it with drones already. So, you know, again, any sufficiently advanced technology will appear like magic. That rule will always apply until the end of time, forever. So the next time you come across someone who tries to argue with you about UFOs not being real, just go, hey. The SR-71 was built in the 1950s. Guys, thank you for hanging out today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. I'm keen to hear what you actually think about this one. And, you know, Corbell, Greer, Coulthart, different angles, same goal. It's a weird one, right? Let me know what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. The streams of S4 will be returning this week. And if you're not caught up, I'll link the playlist for all of them below. Until then, guys, be good, be kind, get outside, touch some grass, and I will see you next time. Take care.
Eventually, people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.